going to be making you a French-inspired chocolate cake. I would like to dedicate this chocolate cake recipe to LVP Films and its French Allegiance. It was a request from them. Now this is not your over-the-top, overindulgent 5-layer chocolate cake. This is a simple, this is an elegant chocolate cake, but not only that, it is completely flourless. So all of you out there who are gluten intolerant, this is a chocolate cake for you. So let's get started with the ingredients and what you're going to need. First, you're going to need to preheat your oven to 325 Fahrenheit, which is about 165 Celsius, and your cake bakes for about 45 minutes, but you're going to do the toothpick test when it's ready so you'll know if it's done or not. And now then you're going to need 8 ounces or 200 grams of very high quality baking chocolate. Now, when you buy your baking chocolate, this is bittersweet by the way, you open the package, you break it, you want to hear it snap. That means that the chocolate does not have a lot of wax in it. You don't want chocolate full of wax. No one deserves to eat waxy chocolate. So you want your chocolate to have a nice snap to it when you break it apart. Then you're going to need 1 stick of butter, which is about 100 grams, cut up into small pieces. 5 large eggs separated, your egg yolks to your egg whites. 2/3 cup super fine white sugar, super fine. A few drops of vanilla and about a pinch of salt. Then you're going to be needing your mixer. If you don't have a stationary mixer, that's okay. If you don't need a stationary mixer, use a handheld mixer, that's fine too. Then you're also going to need a makeshift bain-marie, which is hot boiling water in a pot, one pot on top of the other. I couldn't find one here, so I had to make up my own. Now when you do that, you don't want the water that's boiling touching the pot on top. You want just enough water so that it makes enough steam, so it'll melt your chocolate and your butter. Then you're going to need a couple of spatulas, a baking tin, which I've lined with baking paper and I've buttered. Now, and I've cut out a piece right here to show you how I've done that. Now be sure when you line your baking tin, you use parchment paper or baking paper. Do not use wax paper. It will catch on fire. I know because I speak from experience. So let's move over to the stove so we can start making our chocolate and our butter mixture. So we've moved the chocolate, the butter, and the vanilla over to the stove, and I'm going to start breaking up the chocolate pieces. And you hear that snap? That means that it's good quality chocolate, and that's what you want. You want high quality, good, bittersweet baking chocolate. You don't want waxy stuff, because that's just not good, and you deserve to eat something better than waxy chocolate. So we're going to let this melt in our little makeshift bain-marie here. And now we're going to add in our butter and let that melt. And we're going to add in, clean my hands. You see the steam coming out from the water underneath? That's what you want. You don't want this pot touching the water. And then we're going to add in a few drops of vanilla. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to start stirring this up so it can melt. And once it's melted, I'll be back and show you what it's supposed to look like when that's done. So we'll be back. So our chocolate has melted, and this is what it's supposed to look like, if you can see that. See that? It's nice, it's smooth, and it's glossy. And now we're going to move this over and we're going to let it cool. You need to let it set aside and let it cool. And we're going to start whipping up our egg yolks with a little bit of sugar. So we're over at our mixer. We're going to add in our egg yolk, and we're also going to add in 3 tablespoons of your superfine white sugar. So let's add that in. Add your egg yolks in. Like that. I like to get all of them in. Don't want to waste them. It's going to make your cake nice and fluffy. And now we're going to add in 3 tablespoons of your sugar from your 2/3 cup that you've set aside. And what we're going to do now is we're going to mix this and whip it up. It's going to take about 7 minutes or so. You want it to be nice and fluffy. So I'm going to start mixing it up, and then we'll be back to show you what it's supposed to look like when it's ready. Now we're going to add our egg whites, and we're going to whisk these up with a dash of salt. Just a little bit. You don't need a lot. And then after that, once these have been whipped up, let's put their salt in first. Just a little bit of salt. Once these have been whipped up, we're going to add in the rest of our sugar. So let's whip these up. I would say it needs about a good 10 minutes to get nice and fluffy, and we'll be right back. So our egg whites have been whipping up, and this is what you want them to look like. You see how nice and fluffy they are? That's how you want them to be. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this back onto the mixer, and we're going to add in the sugar and let that whip up for about 5 minutes or so until it gets nice and fluffy again. So I'm going to put this back, and I'll be right back. So my egg white and sugar mixture is done, and you can see it's nice and fluffy. This is what it's supposed to look like. And what we're just going to do is we're going to gradually start adding a little bit of the chocolate and butter mixture into the egg whites. So we're going to do that by hand and take some time. So you just do it gradually, and what you want to do is you lift it around and fold it in. You slowly lift it around and fold it in. And you're going to do that probably about 5 or 6 times. So this is going to be the first time. I'm going to continue doing it, and then we'll be right back to see the end product. So we've mixed the 2 egg mixtures together. We folded them in, and this is what it looks like. And now we're going to put it into our cake tin. Put all that in. It smells so good. It really smells good. Go. Once you've baked this, you're not going to believe that it's flourless, because it's just so simple. It's so elegant. It's such a nice cake. So I finished putting in my mixture in my tin. I'm going to set my bowl aside. We're going to put it in the oven. You're going to bake this for about 45 minutes or so, maybe a little bit before, maybe right a little bit before. It just depends on your oven and how your oven cooks. You're going to use your toothpick tester to see if it's ready. So let's put it in the oven, and afterwards we'll be able to cut it and see how it tastes, because it smells absolutely delicious. So we've taken the chocolate cake out of the oven, and this is what it looks like. I've placed it on a wire rack so that it can cool. Now, do not attempt to remove it from the tin or to open your spring form, in the case that you use a spring form like I have, until it has completely cooled. So I'm going to let it cool, and then we're going to taste it to see how it is. And I think it's going to be absolutely delicious. Product, and let's taste it to see how it is. It smells absolutely delicious, and I like to eat mine with just a little bit of whipped cream. You don't need a lot, so let's see how it is. I mean, who doesn't like chocolate cake? So you don't even realize that it's flourless. It's so yummy. It's so good. Make it for your friends and family. Make it for the people that you love. Enjoy. Thanks for watching. Bye.